All right, Max, here we are. We're getting ready for our first, I don't know, what is this? A podcast, a Zoom cast, a video? What are we doing here?
I like Zoomcast. That's, I think, probably the name we should go with.
I kind of like Zoom cast. And for our first ever Zoom cast, what have we chosen to talk about today?
So, we are going to be introducing the idea of Lent and what that season looks like, and how to participate in it for those who have no idea, or maybe someone who's done it before, maybe some new ideas for them to engage with.
Awesome. Awesome. So Lent is something that maybe a lot of Protestants or evangelicals aren't as familiar with. And so I thought it'd be good for us just to kind of share a little bit of background on Lent. And I think the first thing that we have to start with is that Lent itself is not like a biblical command. At,
Absolutely.
at no point did Jesus say, observe this season. But with that said, this concept is very, very biblical. This
Yeah.
idea of a 40-day period or a 40-year period, you actually see it throughout the Bible. And just four of them that kind of come to my mind real quick is the 40 days of the flood in Genesis. Just kind of that new beginning for really the entire earth. I think of Israel's 40 years wandering in the wilderness, a time when God was forming a people, preparing them to be a people. Moses on Mount Sinai for 40 days. And during that time, he's hearing from God. And then, of course, Jesus is 40 days in the wilderness, a time when he was being prepared to enter ministry. And so, while this idea of Lent is not a biblical command, we see it throughout Scripture, and it's a time when God was doing something with His people. He was either shaping them or revealing Himself to them, maybe preparing them for whatever came next in the life of God's people. And so, while we don't see it in Scripture, it has been a huge part of church history, right?
Absolutely. Before we jump into the church history
Hmm.
kind of element of it,
Yeah,
I want to do just a little bit of a callback to Sunday and our sermon on First Peter.
great sermon, by the
And
way.
thank you. Uh, and Peter just really hammers home this idea that believers truly are exiles and foreigners on earth, no matter where you live, whether you've moved or not. Your home is not here. And so, in that, our time on earth is its own kind of wilderness
Oh yeah,
experience in
yeah, yeah.
itself. And it is meant to be somewhat of a preparatory time for us as we, like we talked about, we are justified, we are made holy in our belief in Christ. But then we're also constantly being transformed into the image of Christ in our sanctification, being made more holy as we go on, and that's really kind of the point of kind of what Lent is about. Is that idea
That it's
of
a time of preparation for being
yes,
glorified. It's almost like our time on earth is preparing us for heaven, right?
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah. So just wanted to throw that in there.
I love it.
The church history aspect is honestly really interesting. As I was doing the research for this, and I was looking at a bunch of different things, this idea of a preparatory time or practicing fasting leading into Easter dates back well into the first century.
Oh wow.
So super early on, we had believers doing this. It wasn't standardized for a long time. And so, with that, it really, for the early stages, was kind of up to the individual, up to maybe the congregation.
Right.
And a lot of what that looked like was more of a short term fast. Maybe it was 1 or 2 days leading into Easter. So it was Good Friday and Holy Saturday.
Okay.
Um, and so they would fast for those 2 days as preparation for Easter and that. Other congregations or individuals would maybe fast for a week or two. And that's kind of what it looked like for the first 100 or so years. People kind of did what they felt kind of called to.
But there was still
Um,
a preparation period.
Absolutely. The mindset of we are preparing for something important. And so with that, God deserves us. God deserves our
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Was very real from as early as we can really get. Um, you really start to see around the second century, you already have church fathers like Irenaeus, and he mentions in his writings disputes over the length with which we should fast leading into Easter.
Okay.
And so, what you see there is at that point, people are having conversations about this like we are doing right now.
Yeah.
And it's such an important topic that they're arguing about it with one another. And they're going, well, I fast this long. And well, I fast this long. And so what we see is it's a well established concept, but still not quite standardized.
Hmm.
The earliest official establishment of really a standardized 40-day fasting period leading into Lent actually came at the Council of Nicaea in 325, which I thought was so interesting because I've heard so much and I've read so much about that particular ecumenical council, but I've never seen that
Yeah.
Lent was mentioned.
I've never
And
never heard that. Yeah.
so yeah, they actually mentioned it in their conversations there, and they standardized it to a 40-day
Okay.
preparatory time. Um, so then we kind of see it following through kind of the rest of the centuries leading in, and in during a lot of like the Middle Ages, what you see is practices are very still individual in what you do during those 40-day times. What's interesting is you also begin to see a shift where it moves from more of this personal call, personal desire to glorify God with my decisions, my body, all of these things. And what you see in kind of the Middle Ages is it becomes much more systematized
Right.
and religiousified, and it becomes much more orchestrated by the church. And if you don't do it, you're punished in some kind of way. And so it begins to
Pretty
like,
typical of those Middle Ages.
yeah, exactly. It really kind of follows. If you know anything about that time, you know that that's a
Yeah.
lot of what was going on and why we have so many other things that happened in that time.
Yeah.
And so from there, you get a lot of interesting opinions that kind of come out of that. And we're not going to get into all of them on this because we don't quite have the time for it, but we'll include it in that handout that we're making for
Yeah.
people.
Sure. Sure.
I've included a number of quotes for people from a lot of the church fathers and some of the reformers, and I found it really interesting, particularly some of the reformers' opinions. So Martin Luther, you wouldn't be too surprised, is actually rather fond of Lent and saw it as a good practice to be practiced, as an outward sign of what God is doing inwardly, the good things that we're supposed to do. John Calvin's quote, one of his quotes I found really interesting, which said, "As for Lent, I do not deny that it was an ancient custom, but I say that it was founded on no divine command." Like we talked about. We talked about it's not in scripture, but it is absolutely something that is rooted in good practice. And then his second quote that I found very interesting was, "Superstition has so corrupted this observance, being Lent, that there is nothing in it but a pernicious abuse."
Mm.
And so he's really speaking to the time. But what I find so interesting about that particular quote is that sometimes I think we do this. We bring almost a superstitious element into some of these practices, and that's just not what Lent is.
Right.
John Calvin isn't denying the value of Lent. He's saying we've corrupted it. We've made it something that it isn't. And so, in that, what we see is this is not a bargaining chip with God. I'm not earning something special because I do this. And so, we really need to have the right mindset going into these practices. And we see through history that people had good mindsets and bad mindsets whenever it came to Lent. Really, whenever we get to about the 1800s, what we start to see is, the high churches, your Catholics, your Lutherans, your Anglicans, your Church of England, they continue to practice Lent, but the evangelical church really went away from it really hard. The Protestant church went away pretty hard in about the 1800s to try and separate themselves more and more from those high churches and high practices, and to say, we're not doing anything to earn anything. But that's absolutely not what we're here to do at all. And that's not our desire with
Right.
any of
And I just want to
truly.
commend you for doing such a good job of just keep talking while my camera's over here freaking out. You're just muscling your way right through it. But
I wasn't sure if your camera was doing it
I
to
think
you
it
or if it was
is.
just on my end.
No, I think it's on my end. But well, one thing I was thinking about is you were talking about how the Protestants, the evangelicals, were really moving away from that practice hard. But you actually see that in a lot of the practices where, this is after not too far the Reformation kind of time period, and they're trying to distance themselves as much as possible from what these religions over here were practicing.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of swung the pendulum too far.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're starting to see it kind of swing back into more of a right time period. And so, how do we as Christians today use this as a tool?
uh, for us as Christians, even in the church that we're in, that is not a high church, it doesn't fall into one
Yeah.
of those categories. We think it is incredibly useful for us, again, not to earn something or to demonstrate how holy we are to someone else in our lives, but rather it's a way of preparing our hearts and minds for what truly is the most important day of the year to us.
Hmm.
And that's Easter, and celebrating the resurrection, and what Jesus' sacrifice means. And what we really do in fasting and giving up something is we create time, and we also introduce sacrifice to our lives in recognition of the amazing sacrifice of Jesus and what he gave up for us. And just recognizing that because he gave up so much for us, I can give something up too.
Yeah.
It's not out of obligation, but it is out of a desire to say, man, I recognize the great gift I have received. And in understanding that, I want to live like Christ,
It's
even
following
in
his
this small
footsteps.
way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's the spiritual element of it, that we really look at. We are following Christ in his sacrifice. I mean, he obviously gave everything. Um, we tend to pick something out to give up. So that's the purpose, is to follow Christ in giving something up. But then what do we do with that space that's been created by giving that thing up?
Yeah, that is so central to what this is meant to be, because you're not just supposed to give something up just to give it up, but you're actually supposed to use the time that you receive back as a way of reflecting, spending time with God, praying, and really focusing in on who he is, what he's done in your life, and also understanding his sustaining power in challenge and difficulty. It's a little bit of that
Mm,
Sabbath idea, even from the Old Testament, and saying, God, we're going to trust you that we aren't going to collect food on this day. And we're going to trust you that you're going to provide enough for us. And in doing so, he did every single time. He makes a way for his people. And so it's really about orienting that time
mm,
in order to glorify him, spend time with him. The other thing that's so key to this in my own personal practice of this, but I think it's probably a pretty universal experience, is usually when you give something up that's a regular part of your life, you crave that thing.
mm.
And so, in craving that, you have almost a physical, mental, internal reminder. And part of what I would encourage everyone to do is with whatever you decide to give up or fast from, when you have that craving, use it as a internal alarm clock
Yeah.
to see, this is when I need to spend time with God. This is when I need to remember. This is what I need to pray. And you'll have that built into you in a way that you might not expect, or maybe you've never experienced. But it's kind of it's kind of weird
Love that
whenever you
idea of
do
the
it.
the internal alarm clock, just a reminder that, hey, this time you were going to spend on this thing, now spend it with God. And that
Absolutely.
works good. So you've obviously practiced Lent, and I assume you're practicing a Lent this year.
Yep.
What are you doing for Lent this year?
This year, my fasting is going to primarily be uh, giving up fast food.
Ah,
So fast food is something I enjoy probably way more than I should. Something that I put way too much time and energy into receiving, getting for myself, and all of those things. It's definitely going to be something that will be easy for me to have those moments of, man, I'm craving this, and I'm like, oh man, I'm giving this up because he's worth it. And so that's going to be my fast for this 40 days.
well, very good. I won't invite you to McDonald's, or maybe I will. I'm testing you.
Oh, okay. What about
So
you? What do you have planned?
yeah, so I'm kind of going with a modern connection as well, and I am giving up social media,
Okay.
personal use of social media, and I really chose that for two reasons. One, man, it can just be such a time suck and a distraction from the important things going on around us, and taking time away that, quite honestly, I could be using for a much better purpose. And so it's an opportunity for me to be intentional with my time in a way that honors God and in a way that can connect me with God. Um, but kind of right on the heels of that, I also see that oftentimes social media is actually forming our heart in a way that's kind of anti-gospel.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of pulling us away from the gospel, which is the exact opposite of what this season's supposed to be. And so it's again another intentional move towards preparation and providing that time and focus on God. And so when I think about what you've been saying, and I've been trying to kind of come up with a kind of that summary statement of what Lent is, could we say that Lent is a 40-day season of spiritual preparation leading up to Easter?
I think that's definitely a great definition for it.
Yeah, I think it can be that simple, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we
Yeah.
need all the deep rules and it's
No,
doing something for God to connect with God.
absolutely.
And we want everybody to join us in this, right?
Absolutely.
We want to invite you to join us in this season of preparation, this time when we can be intentional about clearing out distractions from our life, sharpen our focus on Jesus as we are heading towards Easter. That's the
Yep.
culmination of it. And so Lent actually starts Wednesday,
Yep.
February 18th. And so as people are thinking about Lent and participating in it with us, what are some other examples of things they might consider fasting from or giving up to provide that time with and focus on God?
Yeah. I think the most important thing here is a little bit of what you hit on kind of at the end there of there's not one way to do this. And I think you
Yeah,
even hopefully people can see that in our own chosen practices
right.
is some people think fasting, okay, I just got to not eat for 40 days. And it's like, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, don't recommend that one right now.
Don't recommend that one. Um, but there's a lot of different ways to kind of go about this. And you really do see a lot of them are food based, but
Hmm.
in them being food based, you have a lot of variety in that. And so it can vary very much from person to person what that looks like. Some people fast from sweets or more high sugar desserts, food like that. Some people fast from things like soda or coffee or just caffeine in general. I've done that one, and that was very hard.
Yeah.
Um, uh, you can do a true meal fast. Whether you would feel comfortable doing that, say one meal a day or one meal a week, or whatever is truly manageable and something you're actually going to do. That's another thing that I want to encourage people with is pick something that you will actually stick with.
Right.
Maybe just on the other side of uncomfortable, I think would be the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
So
that's an
don't.
important point because don't pick something that isn't going to be that alarm clock for you, isn't going to be that thing that you're missing, that you're sacrificing for. I there's a reason I didn't choose to fast from broccoli, right? That
Yeah,
I'm not going to miss that in my life. So
I'm fasting from washing the dishes.
yes, that's a great one. I suggested that that would be mine for Saber, and she shot that down. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, pick something out that is important to you, or something that you have a
Something
habit
noteworthy.
of. Yeah, something that's habitual,
Yep.
to get that reminder, that daily reminder. And I think what you said is important. There's no one right way. There's not really a wrong way to do this. And so, yeah, be in prayer. Let God guide that decision as well. And just think about what would serve these purposes for me, because that's
Yeah,
really what we're after.
yeah, and I think it's really important. Kind of that other category of things to give up, it really falls into what you're doing, which is media based,
Yeah.
kind of time wasters or things like that. And so there's a lot of people who will say delete social media, or they'll be committed to, don't turn the TV on during this time, those types of things. And so I think that's a super useful way of doing this, something very incredible to fast from. But I also want to reiterate a little bit that the value from this comes with the growth in our relationship with God.
Yep.
This is not 40 days of self help for you to get a kickstart on your diet because you gave up sugar for 40 days,
Right.
or
Right.
or it's not a way for you to, live your best self by giving up social media. No, like these aren't self help
Right.
practices, though you might experience some of those benefits. That's very possible. But that's not the point here. The point is truly for us to spend this time in intentional relationship with God, allowing Him and inviting Him into our hearts and our minds to transform us in every way so that we come out of it a different person, more Christ-like. And then Easter Sunday rolls around, and we can just scream from the mountaintops the joy of a transformed life,
Yeah.
even if it's just one tick further than we were before we started.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not what these practices do for us. So that's where the kickstarting your diet or whatever, that's not what it's about. It's not what the practice does for us. It's what God does in us
Absolutely.
through these practices. So we're going to be posting these videos everywhere we can. The audio, we're going to put it on our Facebook page. We're going to put it on my YouTube account. We're going to put it on my podcast account. But the easiest place for people to find this is going to be on our church website, rockinmcc.com. And on there, we're not only going to have the video, but the audio if you'd prefer to listen to this in a car. We're also going to have resources available on that homepage that dives a little bit further into it. So we're hoping to really give you some resources out there to be able to truly understand what Lent is.
The other
And
thing that I'm
yeah,
excited about is each week is going to include somewhat of an applicational challenge for each of us to kind of take home with us, if you
right.
will. Yes, a way to live in this season well. And so I'm excited about those opportunities because Lent really isn't meant to be just one practice.
Right.
The one practice is great. And if that's where you're starting, or whatever that looks like for you, that's wonderful. But I'm really excited about maybe these quote unquote weekly challenges
Yeah.
for us to include and kind of create some stepping stones maybe to help people. If you're not going to do one thing for 40 days, maybe your opportunity is to do, just these weekly challenge applications
Right.
uh, as they come out. And that is a way of fasting and giving up. And yeah, no, you don't have to do just one thing for 40 days.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that. Again, it's not meant to be rigid. It's meant to be transformative.
Yeah, and I think that one thing, that giving up that one thing, that fasting from that one thing, we're not stacking more practices on that. we're using that one thing to open the door to these other practices that
Absolutely.
can kind of be a focus of each week, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, if you got questions about Lent, don't hesitate to reach out to Max or I. Let us know what you're doing, how it's going for you. Tell us just how the practice is working for you, and just step into this season and see what God has for you.
I'm excited.
I am too. Well, I just want to bless everyone during this season as we lead up to Easter. I know that God will use this time to grow us and transform us and reach that goal that we all have of looking just a little bit more like Jesus every day. So, yeah, thanks, Max.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, have a great evening.
You too.